if you're a tutor, you are probably sick to death of the amount of hours, the amount of effort, and the amount of time that you're putting into your advertising right now, because you're putting in all that effort, you're putting in all that time, but you're not seeing any students join as a result. And even if you have been successful with advertising, you're probably thinking that you can't repeat that same process to double your students. You can't repeat that same process to 10 times your students, and you can't seem to find a way to do everything consistently. Now, I can tell you exactly why you're in this position right now. It's because you saw a bunch of tutoring companies and a bunch of other tutors advertise in a certain way, you copied and pasted their method, and it doesn't seem to work for you. And the reason is because it doesn't actually work for them. Marketing can be like that, where everyone just copies everyone else, but no one seems to know what they're actually doing. So what I'm going to do in this video is just show you everything that you're doing right now, why it's wrong, and exactly what I did to fix that for myself with my own tutoring business. And the strategies I talk about in this video on this iPad right here, which I'm going to be going through in this video, it's everything that I did to take myself from 5 students to 50 students in the matter of just 2 months. So once I go through this video, once I work through this whole iPad whiteboard screen here, you're going to know everything that I did in order to go from 5 to 50 students within just 2 months. So here's what you're doing wrong right now. With your current advertisement or your current post, you probably just have this static poster ad here. So this poster ad is pretty much just a summary of who you are, what your scores are, what your accolades are, any testimonials. It might include something about your product, maybe what you include and your price, and you have some sort of call to action which might say book a trial now. You might even have your face there as well. But this doesn't work. This doesn't work. I'm going to show you why across this whole video, but I'm going to show you why right now. Now, you might post this as just on Facebook in Facebook groups, or you might just post it as an ad. So you might be spending money running the ad, but even if you're just posting on Facebook, it's still costing you time as well. So it could be costing you money, but it could also be costing you time too. But probably most frustrating for you right now, it's costing you hope and patience, because if it doesn't work, then you're just wasting this time and money, and you just have this false sense of hope from spending all this time and spending all this effort trying to post this ad and post this across a bunch of Facebook forums, whether it be on tutoring pages, whether it be in local community groups, wherever it may be. It's costing you time, it's costing you money, and it's super frustrating because it doesn't work. But if you post consistently enough, of course, any method will work. So you probably get in a bunch of leads because if you're watching this, you're probably a pretty persistent person that's done this for a long time. So what I've done here is I've visualized 20 leads that you might get from posting this a bunch of times over the course of, let's say, a year. And let's assume there's 1 hour for each person for posting the ad, messaging, and calling. So it's 20 hours in total that you spend on just running the ad or posting this on social media and then following up with all the leads that connect with you. So 20 hours in total. And let's assume a 10% conversion as well. Now, there's a big problem with this method here, and it's the fact that you're chasing rather than attracting. You're not getting people to come to you, but rather you're trying to push your product, you're trying to push your offer, and you're trying to push your tutoring service onto other people, which is a problem because it feels as if you're just forcing it down their throat, and you're posting yourself on social media, you're posting this post ad continuously and time again, they're seeing it, and it just feels like you're pressuring them to do it. They don't want to feel pressured. People don't want to be pressured into buying something. They want to feel inspired to buy it. So that's the idea of attracting rather than chasing. And everything has to be set up in the right way to encourage that, and that's what we're going to be talking about later in this video. Now, leads are merely curious if they do come in. So these 20 leads, a lot of them might just be inquiring about what you include in your service, how many hours you do per week, what the cost of your service is, and it's really frustrating because you just want to get to the crux of what their issues are. But these leads are just asking you these random questions that you cannot be bothered answering, and they might already be summarized in your poster ad, which is super frustrating. That's what I experienced for a long time. And it's just really frustrating because it does waste time, and it does give you a false sense of hope as well, because someone contacts you, you expect them to be a good lead, but they're actually not. Now, if they want to know your price straight away, this is the most frustrating thing as a business owner, because you haven't communicated the value of your product yet. But I don't blame the client for that. I used to blame the client for that a lot, and I used to be really resentful to clients if they did that to me. But I realized that's actually a problem with me, because I positioned them in a way that forced them to ask about the price straight away. So I actually did something wrong. We have to take some accountability for that. And the most frustrating thing, apart from them asking you about the money situation, is if they're just using you for a free trial. And this is just a complete waste of time for you. So we want to be avoiding this at all costs. We don't want to be the person who's just being used for free trials. We want free trials to be a mechanism for people to join us. But how it's currently set up with this poster ad to free trial directly, it's not working for you. And that's what we're going to fix in this video. So if we assume a 10% conversion, then out of the 20 leads that you contacted in the first place, two of them joined. So that's if any people join at all. Now, let's assume that they're paying $40 per hour each. That's going to be roughly $1,000 in lifetime value. LTV stands for lifetime value. $1,000 in lifetime value each. And that's assuming that they joined for 25 weeks, which is pretty standard from my experience, because most of my students were in year 12. So if they joined halfway through year 12, that'll be roughly 25 weeks. Now, if these students did join you through this method, then it's very likely that it's just by dumb luck. They just came across your ad one day. It was the perfect storm of they just wanted to find someone straight away. They saw your post, they joined you. It's most likely just dumb luck. And the problem with that is that there's no consistency and there's no predictability with what you're doing. You're just posting a bunch, you're spending a lot of time, spending a lot of effort, and you're just getting 2 students as a result, if they even join you. And the worst part is that if you wanted to double that, triple that, 10 times that, it's not predictable enough to actually do so. And you don't have enough time in a day to keep posting that many times. So what do you actually do? Now, before we go to how to fix this, we're just going to talk about specifically why this method doesn't work. I talked about the problems that you're probably facing with each of these steps of the process, but there's reasons from a selling standpoint and from a business standpoint why this doesn't actually work. So why this doesn't work is that you're not building trust with this process. There's no trust being built with you just putting your face on a poster, putting all your accolades on a poster, and then sending it off to social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram ads, whatever it is. There's no trust because literally anyone these days can post on social media. I can pretend to be someone else completely. I can post a poster ad with a fake photo, and it's no different to what you're posting right now. There's no sense of trust with just building a poster ad and expecting people to join a free trial. And that is going to encourage things such as people ghosting you, people being slow with your replies, and people just using you for free trials, because there's no sense of trust between you and the other party. And of course, that's just naturally going to happen, because if there's no trust being built, there's no reason for them to really commit to a free trial. There's no reason for them to commit to joining your service even after a free trial either. Now, you're not building trust with your current marketing method. The second problem is that your process is high friction. They just see your post straight away. They might be somewhat interested about your tutoring service, but the first thing and the only thing that they can do is book a free trial. That is high friction because it's too much of a step to go from just seeing you for the first time to booking a free trial. Again, I use this analogy all the time in my videos. It's kind of like asking someone to marry you on the first date. It just doesn't work because it's too much of a jump from one extreme to another. But the last reason why this method doesn't work is that you're mistiming your offer. So you're saying your offer straight away, you're putting your product on your poster, you're putting your price on your poster even, and it's just too much at once for someone to comprehend that they're just finding out about you for the first time. You're already presenting your offer before they even know if you're actually good, and they're just going to make a decision there and then on the spot. There's no reason for them to wait around, book a free trial, and see if you're actually good, because you've already given them all the information that they need to compare to another service. If you give them the amount of hours that you offer, what resources you offer, your price, they're just going to take that and compare you to another tutoring company or another tutor. There's no reason for them to stick around and even book a free trial. So I'm sure after this explanation, you can understand why the poster ad doesn't work. That's the long story short with this method. Now, these things are hard to realize if you're just figuring out business for the first time. And if you're a tutor and you feel like you don't run a business, this is a turning point, because you actually do run a business. You have to think of yourself as a business owner, not a tutor. You are a business owner, so you have to think about things from a business standpoint. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video, and that's what I do in all of my other videos as well. I emphasize that you are not a tutor anymore. If you're a tutor, you would just be tutoring for the other tutoring companies, and you would just be an employee. But if you want to be a sole tutor, you're not a tutor anymore. You're a business owner that just does tutoring as part of your service. Now, it's hard to realize these things. It is hard to realize, but every tutor does this. And there's a reason for that, because everyone just copies each other, as I said at the start of the video. But believe it or not, it doesn't actually work for them either. So we need to figure out something different to do. And that's what I was struggling with for a long time when I was running my business. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So that's why it doesn't work. Now, this is what I experienced. I tried the above method for 18 months, 1.5 years. So I was consistently posting almost every day on a bunch of different forums, and I had about 10 to 15 students join with this particular method. But I had to post very consistently. I had to post almost every day. I had to always post on VC tutoring page. I had to always post in the local community groups, and it did work, right? I did get 10 to 15 students out of it, and you might be thinking, and you might be hearing this and just thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could get 10 to 15 students. I'll do anything to get to 10 to 15 students. I'm telling you, you don't want to do that to get 10 to 15 students, because you are going to be so burnt out by the sheer amount of posting and the sheer amount of effort and time and commitment it takes to post that many times, that you're just going to be so done with your business that you're not even going to want to deliver your product. You're not going to want to tutor. You are just going to be so miserable, because you know that if you want to get the next student, you have to keep on posting it even more. So you don't want to be stuck in here. You don't want to be stuck just posting consistently, always just being on your phone, copy and pasting the same ad, keep on refreshing social media to see if people reply to you. You don't want to be chasing like that. You want to be bringing people in, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, there's a really big additional problem with this method, aside from the fact that it doesn't really work that well. It's the fact that your hourly rate is actually shrunken down because you spend so much time acquiring students. Let's do a quick calculation. This is what you think your rate is. You think your hourly rate is just your total revenue divided by your hours of delivering tutoring. So it's $40 from each student per week. Each student receives 1 hour per week. So you're earning 80 divided by 2, which is $40 per hour. Pretty simple maths. That's what you think you're earning, because that's what you're charging the client. But what your actual rate is your total revenue, which you're earning from the students, divided by your delivery time and also your time of acquisition. Because think about it, we brought 2 students in, so we're not doing that many hours of tutoring with those students. We're only doing 2 hours. But at the start, the sunk cost of time was 20 hours in total to acquire those 2 students. And don't think about just the 2 hours that you had to spend with these students individually, because it took you 20 students to engage with 1 hour each in order to bring in 2 students. So you have to consider that when you think about the amount of time that you're spending with your business, because this is still time. This is still 20 hours worth of work to get 2 students in. I'm just going to write this down. This is still 20 hours of work to get 2 students in. Even though those 20 hours didn't necessarily correspond directly to those students, you still had to contact 20 students and engage with them in order to bring in 2, because of that 10% conversion rate. So your actual hourly rate is, I guess the easiest way of thinking about this is thinking about it as from a 25-week standpoint. So after 25 weeks, they're going to be spending $1,000 each. Each of them having 25 weeks is 25 hours per student, plus the 20 hours of static acquisition time. So once you do the calculation, it works out to be $28.50 per hour. That is more than a 25% loss. That is a huge amount of loss because of the time of acquisition. So that's just purely from the sunk acquisition time that you're losing because of all the inefficiencies above. That's the biggest problem here. So let's just take a breather. I'm going to take a drink of water, and now we're going to talk about the consumer psychology and the true reason why this doesn't work, and actually how to fix those things. What things do we have to fix with this process in order to get it working? So let's talk about some consumer psychology before we transition into what to actually do. Because it's really important to understand the fundamentals. Just like the same if you're teaching a subject, you start off with the fundamentals, you figure out what is the purpose behind this, and then you actually apply it. So that's exactly the same with marketing and just running a business in general. You have to understand what you're trying to achieve, how to achieve it, and then you actually apply it. So if we think about consumer psychology, research shows that you need 7 to 12 touch points with a lead in order to make a sale. What's a touch point? It's essentially just a way of you directly or indirectly contacting or interacting with a lead. So this could be them watching a short form video, them watching a long form video, them having a conversation with you via DMs, them having a conversation with you via the phone, them watching a video of you presenting your product, them having a Zoom call with you. There's so many different ways that they can get in contact or interact with you, again, directly or indirectly. But research shows that for the best conversion rates, or for optimal conversion rates, you need in the range of 7 to 12 touch points. So consider that whenever you're going through an advertising campaign or starting to create a new marketing pipeline, that ideal range of 7 to 12 touch points is perfect. Any more than that is not necessarily detrimental, but it's more so just spending more time than you actually need to with a specific client. So that's something to consider. When, of course, the more the merrier, right? If you have the time to do it and you have the time to contact them more, then you should do it. But there's an optimal amount of time, so that's 7 to 12 according to the research. Now, second bit of consumer psychology. A free trial, quote unquote, requires no investment from your lead. If you're just posting a static ad on Facebook or Instagram and you just say book a trial now, there's literally no investment from them to book the trial and then commit to it, because they received it so easy, so they feel as if it's not worth that much or it's not that valuable to them. So they don't treat you with that level of respect that they should. But it's fair enough that they don't, because they didn't actually have to overcome any hurdles or overcome any barriers to get the free trial. So there's actually no reason subconsciously for them to treat it with any respect. So they will treat you according to how much they've invested. That's what I've said here, and I feel as if that's worded really well. So this could result in them just ghosting you, slow replies, or asking for the price instantly. They're just going to read through that free trial, quote unquote, straight away, because they already know what that implies. It implies that you're trying to lure them in to join your service, because they see so many other people posting that free trial method now. Exactly the same with the DM me this for more information. I'm sure you've seen that on Instagram a lot. It's exactly the same with that. People understand that that's just part of a marketing pipeline now. So most people will avoid DMing people because they know they're just going to be stuck in a sales conversation with them. Now, third point about consumer psychology. Leads want certainty that you can solve their problem. That's what they actually want. Leads want to see certainty in the fact that you can actually solve their problem. And there's many different ways that you can give that to them. But what they truly want is they want someone, who ideally is you, to take them from their current state to their desired state. That's cut off there. Their current state to their desired state. They want someone to take them from where they are right now with their grades to a position where they're scoring their dream grades, they're getting into their dream degree, and they're pursuing their dream career, or whatever else they're trying to achieve. Now, what they don't want, now this is going to sound really weird, what they don't want is they just don't want a bunch of classes and resources, because classes and resources don't mean anything to them. What do classes and resources actually do? Of course, they can be a tool or part of a mechanism to get them their dream grades, but if you think about it, most people don't actually just want classes and resources for the sake of it. They usually want it as a pathway to get their dream grades. We need to think about that. Your selling point shouldn't be your classes. Your selling point shouldn't be your resources. It's the fact that you can get them from their current state to their desired state using whatever method that you do. That's the most important thing you need to consider when promoting your offer, quote unquote. If it's just a blanket 2 classes a week, resources, messaging, it's not going to really entice anyone. And I guess the worst part is that everyone else is saying the same thing. So you just look like a carbon copy paste of everyone else. Now, if you think about before we think about what we need to actually fix this, think about what you don't need. I'm going to talk about what you don't need, because over the past month, I had a chat with over 30 tutors or tutoring companies, and so many of them came to me with predetermined solutions to their problems. They say, hey, Adrian, I don't have any students coming in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hire a bunch of tutors, where it doesn't sound like tutors is actually going to fix your problem. It sounds like you have what we call a top of funnel problem, which is essentially awareness behind who you are, what you do, what your offer is. If you have a bunch of tutors on your team, that's not really going to bring in any more students. It's just going to bring in more headache. And it's going to bring in employees that don't actually have any work to do because you have no students coming in. So you don't need more tutors. If anything, you don't need any tutors. I didn't hire any tutors until I got to the 50 student mark, because of course there are some people private, some people group, but you don't need any tutors. You can just start putting people in groups, and you can deal with them on a many-to-one basis. Tutors isn't going to solve your problem of bringing in more students. It's not going to solve your problem of having more awareness. A fancy website, believe it or not, it's not actually going to bring you any more leads in, because you don't have a process of contacting these students in the first place or getting them aware of you. So, how are people even going to come across your website if there's no way of them even knowing about you in the first place? You don't need to spend effort on fancy graphics. You don't need to spend effort trying to find a fancy name that entices people. You don't need a brick and mortar setup. You don't need a physical location. You just need a way of students knowing about you. Now, of course, social media is such a big thing nowadays. It's just a term that we throw around. It's so normal in our lives. And that's the way that people get in contact with people these days. Don't think about flyers. Don't think about, posting in people's mailboxes. Don't think about going to ad boards, physical ad boards. The only way of people coming in contact with you is through social media. So the number one first step is you need a solid social media presence, but how you use that is of course just as important, and how your actual process of taking a student from just knowing you to joining your program has to be a solid process. And that's essentially what I do with my clients, and that's what I did with my business to go from 5 to 50 students, which is what I talk about in the next part of this video, which is the last part, and it's essentially the principles that I applied to go from that 5 to 50 students within a 2-month period. Now, these are the principles I used, and these are the principles that I applied, and you can apply to your own business right after you watch this video. Now, the first principle is that students should be active in the process. They should be active in the process of firstly knowing about you, getting to know you more, and then finally having a free trial with you if that's what you want to do. That's not what I recommend, but if you want to do that, and then actually joining your process, or joining your service, sorry. Now, how do they be active with your process? How do they be active during this marketing pipeline? Firstly, they could receive practical advice, or they could be receiving practical advice they can actually apply through videos that they watch of you. So they can take things away from your video that are actually practical that they can watch, whether it be a way of writing their notes, whether it be a way of structuring their schedule, whether it be a way of studying, whatever it is, they can take things away from this video that they're watching and they can apply it to their own life straight away. That is an active way that they can participate with you, and they can feel as if they're alongside you. The next thing is receiving resources that are actually useful to them. So whatever resources you make, don't just make something cheap that you feel as if it's just something to get them enticed. It sounds good, but it's not actually good. Make sure that your resources are actually quality, and make sure it's something that they're actually going to use and share with their friends as well. The last way that they can also be active is receiving advice with no strings attached. If you just want to have a call with someone, or you want to have a conversation with someone just to give them some free advice, you not expecting them to join you, that is a perfect way of building up your brand and building up your reputation. And you're going to be known as the person who's actually really helpful, and that's going to increase your audience, which therefore is going to increase your students in the long run. Even if it's not with those people, it's going to be a way of just building up your brand, building up your reputation. And as you can see, all these ways are ways of increasing your touch points with the clients as well, because they're interacting with you more, they're downloading your resources, they're having conversations with you, they're watching your videos, and they're just essentially interacting with you more, whether it be directly or indirectly. Now, in terms of the stats of touch points, so I have on the x-axis touch points here, I have on the y-axis a conversion percentage for coaching business, so tutoring falls in the coaching business realm. So if you just have a cold pitch like your current poster ad right now, you're going to have a very low conversion. So it's about 0 to 5% from my research. If you have minimal nurturing within your sales funnel, that's just going to give you approximately 10 to 20%. If you just have a standard funnel in this region here, that is going to provide you with about 40 to 50%, I believe. And then if you have an expert funnel with proper nurturing and a proper process, like what I implemented for my business and for my clients, it'll be in the realm of 50 to 60%, which you can't really get much better than that for a sales funnel. That is honestly awesome. And if you see with this nurturing process, you can see it falls in the realm of about 10 to 14 touch points. So that should be something that you should aim for with your marketing pipeline. And if you can implement that, you're going to have no problem bringing in more students and converting them in the easiest way possible. Second piece of advice, or second principle that I used to grow my tutoring business. students should feel the scarcity of your time and the scarcity of their opportunity window. So it shouldn't just be a book a free trial that's offered to everyone, because that's how it currently is. You just put your poster there, you put your accolades on that poster, and you say, book a free trial with me. Everyone's receiving the same thing. They feel as if they can get it anytime. Even if they don't think of it consciously, they're thinking of it subconsciously. We don't want to be doing this. So how do you implement this scarcity factor with everything that you do? You have limited access to your resources. Even if they're free, you have limited access. If it's free, you actually make it even more limited, because if it's paid, then it's limited by price, right? So if it's free, you have limited access, limited windows, only first 50 people. Of course, be genuine with that. I don't like it when people say only for the next 50 people, if it's not actually genuine. If I say this thing is for the next 50 people, it's genuine for the next 50 people. Make sure you actually are genuine with your scarcity. Start valuing your time with your offer. I think this is a really important point that people don't realize, and I can still fall into the trap of this nowadays with my current business, but you need to start valuing your time with your offer. Sometimes we can fall into the trap in the coaching realm of helping people more so to help them achieve the result better. So let's say I might give someone an extra couple of hours every week on top of what I'm already working, on top of everything that I'm already doing for them. And I feel as if that's actually going to help them, and it's going to make them feel like they're getting good value out of it. But if I think about those extra 2 hours I'm spending with them, they're probably not getting too much out of it. It could have just been a couple of messages back and forth, and I could use that time elsewhere. I can use that to refine my marketing. I could use that to host more sales calls, whatever it may be. I could do better things with that time. And you'll only start doing that, and I'll only start doing that consistently once I start consistently valuing my time, and once you start consistently valuing your time. So when you start doing that, then you're going to be more selective with who you jump on calls with. You're going to be more selective with who you start conversations with. And probably just as powerful, and the most powerful thing, is being selective on who you work with. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have that luxury right now because I don't have any students coming in. But you could be in that position where you start having that luxury, and that's going to pay dividends to your business. Because if you start having scarcity with who you work with, it's you're going to have a more scarce service, which people are going to see, wow, like this person's actually really selective. This is kind of cool, and I want to be selected for this. And B, you're going to get more high quality clients that resonate with you more, and they're people who are more likely going to get results if they do resonate with you more. So having scarcity and valuing your time is really valuable from that perspective as well. Another way of doing it is having multi-tiered offer. So you can start off with a low ticket offer, let's say static resources, let's say just a group class, and you could transition into high ticket, which is more one-on-one coaching, very small groups, more hours per week. But that creates scarcity, because a low ticket offer would give you a little bit of access to you, whether it be just messages, whether it be just a group call. And then the high ticket offer is the next tier up, which gives you more time to you and more access to you, which is what people are really looking for, because the resources don't necessarily change. It's the amount of contact that they have with you that's going to change. And that's what they actually value if they're looking for that high ticket offer. But the low ticket's still good if they just want to learn something. But if they want more access to you, then the high ticket is the way to go in order for them to get there. Now, third principle that I applied to increase the amount of students that I had in my business pretty much instantly. Students should go through micro investments. That's really important. This is actually the most important one. Students should go through micro investments before being pitched. What is a micro investment? A micro investment is a small hurdle that they have to go through in order to progress with you and with who you are. They shouldn't be offered the free trial straight away. They should be going through hurdles. Watch this video, watch that video. You have to download this worksheet, etc., etc. It shouldn't feel like they're doing hurdles for the sake of it. It should feel as if they want to do this, they want to do that, and once they tick off all those things, then they get the opportunity to book a free trial. So how do you actually encourage this? One way is that you should get students to choose to opt into small things, such as those free downloads, such as DMing you to watch that video, such as reaching out to you if you want to download this resource. Whatever it is, they should be taking the initiative with a lot of these steps, and that's going to go a long way when it comes to your conversion rate. They should take initiative with decisions as well. So if you're giving out free stuff, don't just make it a static thing that applies to everyone. What I used to do is I used to say, hey, what topics are you struggling with? I used to start conversations with people on Instagram. What students are you struggling with? Or what students? What topics are you struggling with? Once they tell me, then I actually send them a custom resource with a bunch of questions that were specific to that topic, and they imagine how much value they first of all feel about that, and the amount of investment that they took to reach out to you, say what topics they're struggling with, and get a resource in return. They're just going to be so amazed, first of all, and they're just going to feel a big sense of trust. And they should, because you went out of your way to make a resource that actually was relevant to them. And I feel as if this is really powerful and something that you can implement in your business right away. Ultimately, after all these things were implemented, students will ultimately feel privileged to even have a trial, to have a call with you, or to even have a simple conversation with you. And you can imagine, if someone feels privileged to even talk to you, then imagine how they would feel if they actually had the opportunity to join your program. And that's the feeling that we have to entice when it comes to leads coming into our business. It shouldn't just be offered, everything shouldn't just be offered to everyone straight away. They should feel a sense of work in order to get there, a certain sense of investment and a certain privilege before they have a trial with you and before they have the opportunity to join you. Once they get the opportunity, it's just going to make it as easy as possible for you to get them to join and get them to join for long as well.